The best kind of people, right? Farmers feed America, and I like this guy, this person because they're thinking about what's better, right? How could I make things better? How could I improve things? So a farmer wonders if his crops grow better in sun or in shade. Okay. He measures the amount of fruit gathered from a sample of 50 trees grown in full sun and from a sample of 50 trees grown mostly in shade. The five number summaries, hmm, the five number summaries follow. That's great. So they're giving me that and not the actual. That's cool. Okay, so great. I don't have to put in a bunch of data. It says my instructions are on the same set of axes on grid paper. Create a box plot for each type of tree. Compare the center, shape, spread, and outliers of amount of fruit from the sunny trees to the amount of fruit from the shady trees. So to help facilitate this, off to the right, I've set up a, a graph area, right? And we're going to do the two different. The top one is sunny. The bottom one is shady. So let's look at the sunny one first. So my minimum value was 10.8. So I'm going to go pretty close to 10. I'm going to make the line just ever so slightly just to the right of that. So here, well, that's probably a bit too much. So that's about 10.8. Then I'm going to jump all the way to 13.3. I'm not jumping very far, am I? Because that's 20. So okay, you know what? I'm gonna draw this really close to here. So I've got this right in the middle of these would be 13. So I'm gonna have 15. So I have to be closer than that, not the halfway mark. This is looking worse all the time, but I'm committed to this idea. So I'm gonna call that 13.3. The next one I have is 22. Okay, so here's 25 is in the middle, so I'm going to call this one about 22. And then I'm going to go to 58. Oh, yes, almost to 60, right? 58. So and then finally, there's one that was 100. 100. Okay, so if I finish off the box plot for this, let's use the ruler, because you know what, rulers make nice lines that are not wiggly all over the place. They're nice and straight, easy to read. I'll just come up here. Look at that. You know, a nice pencil, a nice mechanical pencil, a quality ruler. You know, you can do so much with just those two tools. There we go. There is, and this one, what they said this is the sunny. So sunny, SUNNY. There's my sunny trees, and then below that, let's do the shady trees. So the shady trees, we start with 10.9, which is very close to the 10.8 we had. Very close to 11. And then from the 10.9, I'm sorry, I have to see, I lose track. At 18.5, oh good, I get to go 18.5. So here's that's 15. So a little bit, there we go. We'll say this is 18.5. And then we get to go to almost 30, 29.3. And then we get to go to 61. Ooh, past 60, 61. I don't know, I'm thinking these shady trees, they like the shade, huh? 127. 127, that's like getting close to 130, 127. Alright, and then our ruler is here. I'm going to draw this lovely line and draw this wonderful little line right there. Did I just move that graphic? Let me hit undo. Yeah, I think I did. It's okay now though. And then move this down here. And I got these whiskers and this whisker. Okay, so this is the shady S-H-A-D-Y. Shady? Shady. Shady. Okay, there we are. So I can see that. What am I looking at again? What did they say this was? It says he measures the amount of fruit gathered from a sample of 50 trees grown in full sun and from a sample of 50 trees growing in mostly shade. So this is the 5-number summary from each of those 50 trees, right? And the units here are expressed in bushels. Did they tell me what kind of crop this is? Are these apples or pears, or just didn't say anything about that? It's just fruit. Okay, so compare the center shape, spread, and outliers of the amount of fruit from sunny trees to the amount of fruit from shady trees. Well, the center of the shady trees is shifted about, 7 units to the right. So the center of the shady trees is at 30, and the center of the sunny trees is at like what was that, 22ish or something. Half of the half of the trees were growing 30 or more bushels. Half were growing less for the shady trees. For the sunny trees, 22. Half were growing 22 or more for that. Pretty big range, right? The range, though the interquartile range is pretty close, right? Remember, this is Q. No, that's not Q1. This is the minimum value for each. This is Q1. This is Q2, and it's also the median. This is Q3, and then this is the max. So both of them have interquartile range that are very close to each other. If you look at Q1 and Q3 in both, they're almost in the same locations, and the difference between those, Q3 minus Q1, is the interquartile range. So they have pretty similar IQRs, meaning close to the same variability. I don't know if there were outliers present or not. It would be hard for me. I don't know how I could tell if there were outliers because I'm not looking at the actual data. I'm just looking at the 5-number summary. Well, there is quite a bit of difference between 61 and 127, but there's also quite a bit of difference between 58 and 100. So I'm going to say not. It says the farmer wants to summarize the amount of fruit from each type of orchard with a mean and standard deviation. Is that appropriate? Yes or no? Ooh. Is that appropriate? I think that we know that if we have outliers, we would say that we would probably not use the mean or the standard deviation. I mean, those are two different metrics, but if we have the presence of outliers, right, we would say we should use the median and the IQR. And we've been saying that if we don't have those outliers, we could use the mean and the standard deviation. It's hard for me to tell if we have outliers or not, but one thing we do know is that these two distributions are not symmetrical, right? If you look at the median and Q1, Q3 in both, they're not clumping in, they're not in the middle of the graph, right? You can see the bulk of the data is shifted off to the left, and because with that data is more to the left, if we were to look at this as a histogram, these are both skewed off to the right, right? The tail, the short side, is pulled off to the right. So because these are both skewed distributions, I would say that it would not be a good idea to use the standard deviation, right? In the case of a skewed distribution, we should use the median and the IQR, the interquartile range. And again, the mean we use to describe the typical value. The median we use to describe the typical value, right? The standard deviation tells us how much deviation there is or spread there is away from the typical value, and the IQR attempts to tell the same story, right? How much spread there is or deviation there is from the typical value. Remember, if we see skewed distributions or distributions with outliers, it's a better idea for us to use the median and the interquartile range. And if we see symmetrical distributions, or we see distributions without outliers, both of those conditions, then we should go ahead and use the mean and the standard deviation.